All right, this is my voice support for the module PALS, and I did K through 1. I learned a lot, and I loved listening to the teachers' experiences. I put in my paper an example from, where is she? Nicole Lawson. She was a kindergarten teacher forever, and now she's a first grade teacher in a school in Minnesota. And she noticed, like, after her 4 years of teaching kindergarten and moving to first grade and implementing PALS, she noticed a tremendous difference in her students' improvement from day one of school to the end. And she said 11 different nationalities in her classroom. And I think that really connected with deaf ed, because we're going to have numerous backgrounds too: ethnic, culture, how they identify. You might have deaf, you might have deaf, you might have hard of hearing, you might have cochlear implants, hearing aids, FMs that are used, Bahas, which I'm not a fan of, but Bahas, and X, Y, and Z. You're gonna get that variation no matter what, just because some are gonna be language deprived, some are gonna be on, the exact level that they need to be. Some may be ahead, but it's gonna be more down here. Some may come from parents who are deaf, some may come from parents who are hearing, some may not come from their original parents and be adopted or in foster care. You're just going to have a wide range. So her experience really kind of connected us, like, oh, wow, if that can happen in her classroom with 11 different nationalities, why are we not implementing PALS more? Like, I know it's newer, but like, this sounds great. Now I do see hiccups, though, for those students who don't have access to speech or auditory sounds. This would be more visual activities. I think I would implement in my classroom. It gave us a list for kindergarten, a list for first grade, and sounding word games, sight word games, X, Y, and Z. But there's so many different ways now with technology that's huge. Like, students could use iPads, they could use the smart board. If when it starts whole to part, start as a class and use the smart board. The I do, we do, you do, break off into groups, use iPads, come back together, and work with the technology to create those visuals for all students' scaffolding needs and all the students' different levels of abilities. Now, I love that this is implemented and easily can be implemented 3 times a week, because you need to start young to start practicing, awareness, and word recognition, the fluency, to that foundation, set it up, motivate those students. I even said implement a reward system if you need to really encourage like a healthy team environment. But I think there's so many different ways you could promote a healthy team environment. I said through modeling. I've seen it be very efficient and positive. Create a negative situation, start with a negative first, create a situation, and then ask your students, what was wrong with that? Okay, and then model what should happen, and then ask them what went right in that situation. And then now they have that, visual expectation of what's going to happen next. And you'll see, I did say you can, focus in on one student who's doing like an awesome job and be like, thanks, Billy, for being on task. Or you could do it as a whole, like, wow, I'm noticing the pairs that are cooperating and working together. They're almost done. Wow, thank you guys. And that kind of will self-correct those who aren't. But in the first, like the 5 benefits, like I'm hopping around, I'm sorry, but the first 5 benefits of PALS, I added a lot straight from the module and like research support in there, along with that example from the teacher. Compare and contrast, I feel like kindergarten is just more, just starting level, just launching. In first grade, it says picks up where they left off, and then you're really emphasizing and working on that fluency part. Now, it was kind of fun to think of the different ways that you could partner your students off. With 20 students and you only have 19 that day, I gave example of the I do, we do, you do, That way we're working together. Students can work at their tables and then come back together. Or I could still pair kids off, but then have the pairs work together, making 4. So you'd have 4, 8, 12, 16, and then a group of 3. That group of 3, I could be walking around and joining them every now and then to make sure they're getting that full benefit of the activity and making sure they're focused and on task and that. But before I could do that, I said I'd have to make sure that the activity we were doing that day matches the instructional approach that I chose or the student layout. Yeah, so this one was actually a pretty fun module, and I just wanted to support it with kind of what I found was really interesting, and I'm also really curious. I wish we could share modules to see what others ideas people had to connect this to a DHH classroom. Like, how would you change the activity? What would you do in this situation? Those types of things.